So what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Angel Queen. Got another video today I'm gonna do while I'm sewing, still sewing this thing on my jeans here, and gonna be talking some more about my life, basically. Want to go back a little bit to some of the things I was discussing about the narcissists from my past and what makes me call them narcissists in the first place. Oh, and by the way, the questionnaire from the people who are supposed to be representing me with my SSI case still did not send the questionnaire, and so I'll have to call them on Monday and ask what's going on. But let me go on to what I was discussing on the other video. I know I said my next video was going to be me putting up the tent. I didn't do that yet because now my mother is working on cleaning up her backyard, so I can't put it up just until she's finished doing that. Like I said, things happen all of a sudden. So, my ex-narcissist, well, let me start off with my ex, or not ex, because he's still my husband, but my estranged husband, and some of the things that was going on with him. First off, we met off of, back then, I was on a chat line called Vibe Line, and I was on that in New York. And in fact, that's also where I met my youngest son's father, incidentally. You would think a person would learn. And prior to marrying my husband, I was engaged to someone from off of that chat line as well. And he got locked up, and that's how I ended up meeting my current estranged husband. When my fiance at the time got locked up, I was living in Brooklyn, but then I would travel to him because he was just in Staten Island. I would travel to him in Staten Island to go see him and things like that. I was bringing him like commissary, you know, when you go visit someone. So he was just locked up like that. It wasn't like he was in a prison. He was just in jail. And so I would go see him, bring him commissary. I was writing him every single day. And during the time when I was going to visit him, this is my fiance at the time I'm talking about, before I met my husband. So I was going to see him and bringing him things and all that, and writing him letters and sending him requests on the radio and things of that nature. And we had been engaged for, at that time, it was about a year. And so while I was doing all of this, he only had a year and a half that he was supposed to do. And so I'm fixing up the apartment I was in at the time, and it starts to get closer to him getting out. So I did a year at that point. And then, so right before he's about to get out, 6 months, everything's done. I'm waiting. He's already told his, the warden, I guess, or whomever they have to talk to, that he has some place to come to, which is where I was living at the time, because I had moved away from a different place, and I was living there at the time. And so he told him, yeah, she's willing to let me come stay there when I get out, this type of thing, whatever the case may be. What I didn't know was that he was already having another visitor come and see him, another woman who he had been in a previous relationship with. And so she was coming to see him and things like that. Now, he didn't give her address because I believe she was living with her family at the time. But he was still making plans with her. So, I write him a letter one time. And he sends back a letter to me all of a sudden out of nowhere. You know what? I don't think you should wait for me anymore and all this other kind of stuff. It's not right for you to have to sit here and wait for me and blah, 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 and whatever else he was saying. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of strange because you let me do that for a whole year, and now that it comes closer to you getting out, all of a sudden I should find a friend and go on about my life and all this other stuff. Well, I got upset. And I'm not the type to cheat on somebody, but I got upset and I said, well, you told me to go get a friend, right? Okay, no problem. So I go back on the chat line, and that's where I meet my husband. And while we're talking and all this, and just talking, we haven't met in person or anything like that yet. While we're doing all this talking, I'm talking a lot about my fiance. And he's just listening and being supportive and all this kind of thing. And within about, I would say, 3 weeks or so, he's like, well, are we ever going to meet? Because we're just friends, are we ever going to meet and hang out or anything like that? And I said, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't be stringing you along as a friend over the phone, and not meeting you. So we meet. And what's so funny about it is when we meet, it's on a day where I have to go to work. And at the time I was working at sanitation, just cleaning up the sides of the roads, cleaning up spills inside the sanitation department where the trucks would be held. So I'm cleaning up, the oil spills. They give you like a solution and all sorts of stuff, whatever. So I'm doing all of that. And he finally comes over, we meet, we hang out. I don't let him meet my kids yet, but we hang out and everything is good. Like, we're getting along, we're having a great time, no sex, just hanging out. And he still knows that I'm still writing letters and all this, explaining everything that I'm doing, everything that's going on. I let him know, hey, I met somebody, we're not dating, he's just a friend, we're hanging out, stuff like this. But he knows about you, he knows about the situation, he knows that you told me to go get a friend all of a sudden, out of nowhere. And that's what he is. He's just being a friend. He listens to my issues, my problems, stuff like this. And, we go out sometimes. And we didn't really go out and do much. We went out and hung out with his friends, stuff like this. And he never stayed over. He never spent the night. He never was in the apartment like that, just coming over every once in a while when the children weren't there. If they went and, go visit with my youngest son's father's mother. And so everything was good. But my friend is all of a sudden like, what are you doing? Why are you letting this guy treat you like that? Blah, 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 blah. I could treat you better. And I'm like, whoa, where's that coming from? Right? I said, you know my situation. But as time goes on and the more letters I get, now this fool is trying to act like, oh, now you're cheating on me. Even though, mind you, like I said, he's sending me to go see somebody else in his letters, right? But what I didn't know, of course, is that he already had somebody he was dealing with. And that was the reason why. But I didn't know that at the time is the reason why he's trying to send me about my business. So it was like a setup, basically. Like, you go and hang out with somebody else, right? Go make yourself a friend and have somebody in your life and all this. And then when I go do it, it's the double-edged sword of, oh, look what you're doing to me. So now I get frustrated with this guy. And now I'm calling him this guy because now he's not acting like a fiance or like somebody who loves me. He's acting like somebody who's trying to get out of a relationship, and I still didn't know why. But I had my suspicions because when you're a woman or a male, it doesn't matter. But when you have your suspicions, you have your suspicions, and they're actually really valid. So I decide, you know what? I'm about to go about my business now. I sent him a letter. Listen, I'm gonna go about my business. You're right. I'm done with you. It's over. I've done enough for you. I'm tired of this, the way you're treating me. And it didn't stop me loving him. I'm not gonna lie. I was in love with him, so it didn't stop me loving him because I still didn't know about the other woman. I just know this guy's pushing me away. And at the time, I'm thinking, what are you pushing me away for after I wait this whole year, right? So I tell my husband, before he's my husband, I tell my friend, you know what? Yeah, we can start dating. For real. I'm leaving this guy alone. But what I didn't know is that my friend is still going out seeing another woman as well. And so now, although he's feeding me all this about how he could take better care of me and how he'll love me better than this guy is doing and all this other kind of stuff, the entire time he's got somebody else. And since he's spending so much time with me, I can't tell that he has somebody else. If somebody's with you almost 24 hours out of the day, you're thinking, well, he ain't got time to be with nobody else if he's constantly with me, right? Well, that wasn't the case. So, remember, he wasn't living with me, though. So, my thing was this. I'm hurt by my fiance. This guy comes along. Oh, and around this time, let's say it's about a month in, I decide, okay, he can meet my kids. But what happened on that day was I was coming off of work. I had to go pick them up from daycare. And he came over at the time and was like, where are you going? And I said, I got to go pick up the kids from daycare. And he said, I could tag along. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, you can. So he's walking with me to go pick them up. And my youngest one at the time was so very shy. It doesn't even matter if he knew people. Like, from the time he was born, if he knew somebody that was in my life from the time he was born, he was just a very shy child. It was the same way with his father's friends, and he grew up with all his father's friends. So you would think like, okay, yeah, he wouldn't be shy anymore, but he was. So at any rate, this is what happens. We go to go pick the kids up, and this is both my two youngest boys from daycare, and my oldest one at the time just takes this guy's hand. I introduced him. I said, this is mommy's friend, and I said his name. This is mommy's friend Marcus, and he just takes this man's hand like they're cool like that. And my youngest one goes over on the other side and takes his other hand. And I'm thinking, my child is shy as all to be damned, doesn't even want to look at, let alone speak to people he already's known in his life since he was born. And he was 2 at the time, and my older one at the time is 4. And he takes this man's hand, and I thought, this is a sign, right? So we go on, starting to date and all this, and yes, we start having sex, all that kind of thing, right? And I'm thinking it's all good, everything is cool. So now, the one that's locked up decides to send me a letter, not because I wrote him and said, yeah, I'm with this guy now, blah, 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 but he just decides to send me this letter about how he was in his cell, boo-hoo, crying over me, yada, 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 right? Not, like I said, that I stopped being in love with him because I did it just because I started dating this guy doesn't mean my love of almost 2.5 years is just gone. So, anyway, me and the other one are dating. He says, "Oh, I have to go away for a little while because I'm gonna go see my sisters who I haven't seen in years. They live out in California, and they want me to come visit, and so I'm gonna go see them." And I said, "Hey, cool, no problem. I'm not stopping you from going to see family you haven't seen forever." But what I didn't know was he didn't go see his sisters. He went and was staying with another woman. And how I found that out is because she found my number in, the old cliche. She found my number and she called it and we start talking and she's telling me, yeah, we were hanging out, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And he's outside right now, let me go get him. And she does. And he gets on the phone and boo-hooing to me, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to be with her, I want to be with you. And he proceeds to tell this female, while he's right there in her face, I don't want to be with you, I want to be with, my name is Kathy. I want to be with Kathy. And then he says to me, I want to marry you. Will you marry me? Over the phone. This is all over the phone, mind you. Now, remember what I said. I'm still upset about the way I'm being treated by my ex-fiancé at this time. So, I'm like, okay, whatever. You're sitting here telling this female you don't want to be with her, but you're right there. And my pain allowed me to want to be the winner in this situation. So I told him, yes, we can get married. Right? No ring, no real proper asking me to marry him. This is the damage that I have. You understand? That I think that this is such a wonderful thing. He's telling me this right in front of this woman that he's with, so he must be telling me the truth. He leaves her. He comes back to me. He's staying with me now in the house. And with me and my at this time my two youngest children. And everything is going pretty smooth. He brings over his son. I meet his son for the first time along with my two children. We hang out. We have like this little family atmosphere going on. And that's only all I ever wanted to have. We haven't gotten married yet, but we're doing all these things. Right? And so now, remember that I told you that my ex-fiancé told the people at the jail that he was coming to stay with me when he gets out. And so now we're about 3 months in to this relationship. This other one is about to get out of jail soon in the next 3 months. While we're in this relationship, this man is treating me like garbage all of a sudden. I'm kicking him out, he's coming back. I'm kicking him out, he's coming back. All kinds of stuff is happening that I'm not finding to be too cool. But then he changes over this new leaf and starts acting like he has some sense. The closer it gets, and I'm not paying attention to that, is that the closer it gets to this man coming out of jail is the more he's treating me like the best thing since sliced bread. You understand? So this is my husband I'm talking about. The closer it gets to my ex-fiancé coming out of jail, my boyfriend is treating me like I'm everything. He's treating my children like they're the best thing since, his own being born. And so I start believing that he's changed his tune and he's turning over a new leaf and gonna be a good man. And we proceed to get married. Now, this is the funny part about this. At this point, other things are going on in the household. I'll get to all of that. But it turns out that my youngest son's father is the witness when I get married. In fact, he bought the license. It was only $25. He bought the license and everything else for us to get married, and he came there, signed the paperwork as a witness for me and my husband to get married. We get married in Queens in a clerk's office. And during this time, it's going to sound straight what I'm going to say, but like I said, I'll explain it later. He brings my youngest son there so that he can be there when I get married, right? Which is his child. So we get married, we come home, we don't consummate the marriage, we go to sleep. That ought to tell you something. Anyway, long story short, my ex-fiance knows about this, says how he was crying in his cell when he found out, when he read the letter, da 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 blah blah blah, this, that, and the third. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. This is what you wanted, right? This is what you were sending me to. And now this is when I realized there was another woman. So, what happens with that situation is they call me since it's getting close to his release date and they ask me, can he come stay with me? And I'm thinking, nope, because I've got somebody. But they said, well, we have 2 people on this list that he said he's going to, he could live with. And so we're calling to confirm if whether or not he can come still stay with you. And I'm like, 2 people he said he could live with, who's the other person? And they mentioned this female's name. And when they say the female's name, I remember him mentioning her a long time ago when we had first started dating. And I'm like, oh, so that was the whole reason for you to tell me to go about my business after I spent a year waiting for you. It's because you asked her if you can come stay with her. Her family must have said, yes, it's okay. And then they changed their mind, so you asked me. And that's what that was about. And then she must have told him that she was going to get her own space and that he can come stay, so now I can go. So you see, it's all this game being played behind my back that I have no idea about. And at the same time, I'm over here making my future plans with this husband of mine, who is actually turning out to be more of a dog than I thought. And what he tells me on the day that we got married, we step outside and he says to me, and I quote, I got you from him. And I said, what? And he said, I got you from him. And I said, yeah, well, okay. Not paying attention to the words. Didn't make any sense until later. The abuse, when all that started, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, everything started, emotional, everything started up the moment he said those words. And I realized, okay, just went from a simmering pot to a boiling pot. And now I'm stuck in the boiling pot because I made a rash decision based on my emotions on how another person made me feel rejected. And now I'm stuck. It is 16 years. Wait, 2005, 2015 is 10, 2015, 2020 is 15. It has been 17 years I've been married to this man, whom we don't stay together when we were in the same city, New York. We didn't live together most of the time. We seen other people, dated other people, had sex with other people, did all kinds of stuff, and was cool with it. But the one thing I will say that we did, for whatever reason, what I thought it was, we remained cool. And I don't want to say friends because we were never friends, but we remained cool. Like, we didn't have any problems, like, where we'd be like, nah, you can't see this person, or I'm going to take you to court and take you for everything you got. We never had any children together, so it was just whatever. And he always, after all of this started happening, he always treated my youngest son like garbage, like he didn't exist, like he was invisible. Always saying little snide remarks and things like that. Always making sure that he put his son, his biological son, above my 2 boys. And that just was like a no-no. And so, this is what happens. After all the physical abuse, and after the 2 of these men try to play me out, my apartment had already been refurbished, changed up, fixed up, all nice and pretty and all this other kind of thing. So, I did let my ex-fiance come out of jail and stay with me. Yes, you heard me right. While my husband was there doing this in and out thing, leaving and coming back, or being kicked out and coming back, and all this, because by law, I was told that even though he was not on my lease, that because we were married, he had the right to be there. So he would go, come, go, come. Abuse was still going on. Go, come, abuse was still going on. Doing all kinds of wicked things. Stealing my money, starving my kids, getting the electricity turned off, running up my bills, doing all of this stuff, right? And still being physically abusive. So when the other one came out, I let him come in there, move in. Now, we didn't have any sex. Make clear this. We did not have sex at all the entire time he was around. But what I did do was allow him to come stay in the house at the same time with me and my husband. Whenever my husband was there, he was there. They went to work, they came home, and the funny part about that is my ex-fiance never knew my husband was there. Now, my husband knew my ex-fiance was there because he had no choice but to agree to it, being that everything that was in the house was mine. Everything. The furniture, every single stitch of everything, including all bills and everything about the lease, was all in my name. So he had no leg to stand on to say who I could have in the house, who I couldn't have in the house. He wasn't going to physically abuse me because now there's a man around. And so that's what I did. I played out one, which was my ex-fiance, and I played out the other, which was my husband. And everybody that I knew and that they knew about it. So it was embarrassing for them. And the only person who didn't know, like I said, was my ex-fiance. I never told him, you know this man is living in the house, right? So that's how I got them back, as far as I was concerned. That's how I made them pay for what they did to me. Eventually, my ex-fiance ended up marrying the woman he was trying to see on the low. They ended up having a baby, and this is how I dodged a bullet with his situation, is that while his wife was in the hospital giving birth to their daughter 4 days before my birthday, which was 5 days before my birthday. October 4th, she went into labor and was having their daughter. She had done a bypass surgery because she was a pretty big girl. She did a bypass surgery before she had gotten pregnant. And when she had her child, she started to hemorrhage. While she's in the room hemorrhaging, this fool goes on the phone, calls me up, and asks me what I'm planning to do on my birthday. Now tell me that ain't a kick in the head. Yeah. There's going to be a part 2 to this story in a little bit. But I'm going to end it right here, right now. But that's what he did. He calls me up and asks me, what are you doing on your birthday? Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching. It's your girl, Angel Queen, and this is Angel Queen's Triumph. Later, guys.